Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. You know, every day on the John Campea Show, we save a few minutes at the end of the show, about 10 minutes or so, to take some live questions. But on Open Mic, that's all we do is take nothing but live questions. And I forgot to hit mute on my computer again. Darn it. So it's Friday. We got the weekend is here, all excited and stuff like that. So let's dive right into it without wasting any time. And we start things off today with Jonathan C., who writes, "Love you, man. Thanks for making our days better." Oh, thank you so much, man. That's so nice of you. Yeah, I love doing this show. So thank you so much for sharing that, man. Let's see. Next one. Jay Bling writes, "What are your favorite Iron Man armors? A lot seem interchangeable, but mine are the one from the first Avengers, End Battle, and of course, Infinity War." I'm going to be honest with you. Not a fan of the Infinity War stuff. I like the character Iron Man and all that kind of stuff. Not a big fan of the armor, though. Don't get me wrong, it's kind of like the same thing with Spider-Man and the Iron Spider armor. I hate the Iron Spider armor, but I love Spider-Man. You know, I still love watching Spider-Man in the movie, even if he's wearing that ridiculous, stupid, idiotic Iron Man Jr. armor. I still like the character, though. Still like watching him in the movie. And while I still like Tony Stark and Iron Man doing his Iron Man things in all the movies, I got to admit I'm not a big fan of what the Iron Man armor has become. In the first movie, for example, I mean, it's literally armor. He builds this Iron Man armor, and it was great. There's something about it, though, lately. They've changed it from being armor to being magic. Like, the Iron Man armor now is magic. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. They can pretend like they have scientific explanations for it, but it's magic. They've turned Iron Man into a magic being, where he doesn't even have to wear armor anymore. He just goes, woo, and just magically armor just appears, and they can call it whatever they want. But to me, they've turned the Iron Man armor into magic. And for me, it loses a little something. Like I said, do not misinterpret me. I'm not saying I don't like Iron Man and Infinity War or anything like that. Of course I do. But there's something that's lost for me a little bit. There was something cool about the Iron Man armor. You know what I mean? And that he had to build this armor. And then this armor, like the whole cases with the suits and stuff like that. There was something really cool about that. And then the iterations. And then when they started doing it where, oh, the armor is in this suitcase. I'm like, okay. Then, oh, the armor is in my watch. And now the armor is like nanotechnology that does blah, blah. And it's like, okay, so just you might as well say Tony Stark was on a desert island and came across a magic ring that gave him this magical Iron Man armor. And again, I'm going on about it too, and I don't mean to dump on it too hard. Again, I still like Iron Man, like him in the movies and all that kind of stuff. It's lost a little something for me now, where it becomes so ridiculously unrealistic and so ridiculously preposterous when it's supposed to be kind of grounded in a modern day engineer's brilliance of engineering. Turns into magic. And magic is fine if it's Scarlet Witch, and magic is fine if it's, certain other characters like Doctor Strange wield by. That's great, but Iron Man was supposed to be different. So to me, yeah, therefore my favorite Iron Man armor is actually the Mark II or Mark III. Whatever the Iron Man armor is that he's wearing for the final fight in Iron Man, in the first Iron Man movie. Not the Mark I giant, silver robot one, but I think it's the Mark III. And the Mark III, I think, is my favorite one. I think that's my favorite one. Let's see. Luke1234 writes, "What are your thoughts on Rogue One when it was announced, since you don't like prequels?" Well, the thing about Rogue One, and why I really like the idea of Rogue One when I heard about it, was while I do not like continuously going backwards in storytelling, the thing that appealed to me was it was going to be all new heroes. Yes, Darth Vader was making an appearance. Okay, fine. But for the most part, it was all new characters telling a story that we really have never heard before. We know that the rebels end up with the plans to the Death Star, but we never knew how. We didn't know anything about the characters that got it to them. Somebody say, well, it was the Bothans. No, that was the second Death Star. And so the notion of it, number one, they started selling it right away as being a war movie. And that really appealed to me. Secondly, it was all new characters. That also appealed to me. So while I didn't love the idea that once again it was going backwards in the storytelling, at the same time it appealed to me because new story, new characters, different type of a Star Wars movie than we've seen before, being what the promise was, a very gritty war movie kind of idea. And so all those things appealed to me. So yeah, I dug it. As opposed to say like an Obi-Wan. Okay, you've got me on board with an Obi-Wan movie, but it's a character we've already known. Boba Fett, it's a character I don't want the mystery unraveled for Boba Fett. A young Han Solo movie. Okay, I ended up liking Han Solo. It's a good movie, but I'd still rather them tell new stories with new characters and expand the universe. And even though Rogue One was a prequel technically, it still did all those other things. It expanded the universe for me, all new characters, and a new type of a movie. So I dug it. Let's see. Jay Bling writes, FYI, your Solo box office expectations are looking accurate. Currently projected to make $105 to $110 million. I've been telling you guys this all along. Even when those projection numbers came out of 150 million and all that kind of stuff, I have said this whole time, look guys, it is a movie that nobody asked for. Nobody wanted a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford as that. All the behind-the-scenes director drama, all the drama going on with a bunch of people not liking The Last Jedi. I said from the beginning, right around maybe a little bit over $100 million. And I've said from the beginning, $100 million is great. I mean, hell, it's a lot more than Justice League made on its opening weekend. But I just said with all these things stacked against it, it was too much. So I know it's probably going to end up being more than 105 and 110, but I really felt this whole time that there was just too much stuff that was stacked against the notion of it being like 150, 140 million dollars. You know, and over the 4-day weekend, it may come close to 140. Over the 4-day weekend, sure, but the 4-day weekend is not a 3-day weekend. So I said from the beginning, anything over $100 million, they need to count that as a win. They need to count that as a win. And I've said that from the beginning. All you got to do is get over 100 million opening weekend and you're fine. And they will do that. But yeah, I never felt comfortable with all those numbers and them saying, oh, it's going to be 150 million opening and it's going to do this and it's going to do this. And I've said, okay, that's fine. But I still just don't really buy it. You know, there's just a part of me that just doesn't feel like, with all this other stuff stacked against it, I've just from the beginning never felt like it was going to do much over 100 million. Now, it's not Sunday yet. We may find out it may do 130, 140. Maybe that's the case. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But I do know this. Solo made over $14 million on its Thursday night. That breaks the record for the biggest opening preview night for any film on the Memorial Day weekend in history. The former record holder was one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and it made like $13 million on its opening Thursday night. It went on to make $139 million on the weekend. So Solo beat that. It beat that record. We'll see if it kind of carries over now into the whole weekend or not. So we're just going to have to wait and see, I guess. Let's see. Zizu writes, I've always wondered when an actor throws a gun or something into an ocean/lake, does someone have to go in and find it? Or do you think they leave it? Oh, no, they go in and get it. They go in and get it for two reasons. One, they want that prop back. Number two, you can't, like if you're a movie thing, you can't just be littering. But everybody has, I know, but you can't. So believe me, when they're doing stuff like that, they go in and get it out. They absolutely go in and get it out. Let's see. Andrew Oldham writes, Harvey Weinstein arrested by the New York City Police Department. He actually surrendered himself at the police department. Hope he ends up like Bill Cosby did. As a pundit who got to meet various stars, directors, and producers, did you ever have the displeasure of meeting Weinstein? I did. I've met Harvey Weinstein on a couple of occasions. The first time I met Harvey Weinstein was at an after party for the world premiere of Vicky Cristina Barcelona, which I loved. I love that movie. And a friend of mine, Chris, took me I wasn't invited to it. My buddy Chris was invited to it, so he invited me to go along as this plus one. So I went to the world premiere of that, and at the after party, had a chance to meet Harvey Weinstein. Big guy, and I remember saying at the time, now, don't get me wrong, I didn't foreshadow anything, but I remember saying, this guy kind of strikes me as kind of a douchey bully in many ways. And I remember other people at the party saying, that guy's a real jerk. But I never really thought of anything of it. Like, it's just Hollywood talk, people talking, blah, blah, blah. So I honestly never put two and two together. I really didn't. But that was the first time I had a chance to meet him. It was a great movie and it was a great after party, but it wasn't, and it's not like I stood around and talked to Harvey Weinstein for 5 minutes. No, I think somebody just briefly introduced me, blah, shook hands, blah, blah, and that's it. But getting to observe him for the evening, I remember he seemed just kind of douchey, but I never would have imagined all the other stuff. So I don't want to pretend like I could tell from the first time I met him that he was, no, I didn't. I just thought he was a little bit douchey, but that's 70% of LA. People are kind of douchey in this town. That's, like I said, about 70% of LA. So I didn't really think all that much of it. But yeah, I've had the chance of meeting Harvey Weinstein. Let's see. Murray writes, saw Solo last night, didn't love it, but felt like a fun adventure ride. Very different from other Star Wars films. Loved Han, Chewie, and Lando. Some of the origin stuff with Han didn't work for me. Nice surprise overall. Left the theater with a smile. And that's pretty much was my reaction. It's especially the origin stuff, which is kind of in the first act. I remember seeing in my review, the first act's clunky. And yeah, there's some of the origin stuff. And by the way, we're going to do our spoiler discussion on Sunday at 2 p.m. It's 2 p.m. Pacific time. So if you have a chance to see Solo, make sure you come back and join us for that. But yeah, some of that origin stuff in the first act is what didn't work for me. And like I said from the beginning, this is not a film that's going to be in the top 10 films of the year discussion and things like that, but it is a fun summer adventure film. And I really liked it on that level. And I was really happy because two friends of mine, which is really weird. I've got these two friends of mine who are very deeply in the industry. One of them hated The Last Jedi. And he loved Solo. Loved Solo. He was at the world premiere too, bumped into it. He loved Solo. Talked to another friend of mine who really likes The Last Jedi, hated Solo. Just hated it. So it was kind of weird that the one dude who hated, and never stops tweeting about how much I honestly, I just ignore him a little bit, to be honest with you, because he's just out of nowhere for no reason whatsoever will just put out tweets about how much he doesn't like The Last Jedi. And yet we go see Solo and he loves Solo. Then I got this friend of mine who's a hard supporter of The Last Jedi and hated Solo. So a little bit of role reversal going on there. But so I went last night. It was my third time seeing it last night. I went to the AMC Burbank 16. And I went with a couple of friends of mine. I went with fact checker Jonathan. I went with Kaori. And I went with my buddy Ryan. And I was really curious what they would think of it. And apparently they all had a great time. They all really enjoyed it, which is great. The audience we were watching it with seemed to really like it. There was a nice round of applause at the end of the film. That's nice to see. But yeah, again, it's got some issues. It's not an all-time great movie by any stretch, but it's a fun summer adventure film. That's how I felt about it anyway. And yeah, the thing that to me they really nailed was the dynamic between Han and Chewie and the interaction dynamic. And just the first time Han jumps into the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, you could just feel this shiver go through the audience. And then the first time Chewie gets into the co-pilot seat of the Falcon, you feel that shiver through the audience again. It was those moments they really nailed. There's some things they didn't, but it was those really important moments that they nailed. And why I think most people are walking out, like you're saying, Murray, not being completely in love with the film, but having had a good time and, like you say, overall leaving the theater with a smile on your face. And I think that's probably descriptive of most people's experience with Solo. Alex Pitt writes, just seen Deadpool 2 for a second time, and just before the film started, someone in the back row decided to shout out spoilers for everyone to hear. What an asshole. Who would do that? And why didn't somebody beat... I'm not endorsing the violence in any stretch, but Seriously, how did that guy not get thrown out of the theater? How does that guy not get thrown out of the theater? Like, what an idiot. Why would you do that? What motivation do you have other than I just feel like being a world-class prick and doing that? I'm sorry about that. That really sad. Fortunately, you saw it already because you're saying it was for your second viewing. So fortunately, it didn't ruin it for you, but I feel really bad for anybody that's going to the first time. Look, it's not like Deadpool 2, the main point of Deadpool 2 is any of the spoilers. It's a comedy, so that's fine, but still, like, why would somebody be a jerk like that? But then again, why are half the jerks on the internet the jerks that they are? Who knows? Dakota Barber writes, watch Slither today. Really fun movie. Genuinely creepy stuff in it, too. And Elizabeth Banks, Michael Rooker, and Nathan Fillion are great in it. I'm telling you what, it was Slither to me. When people want to have a discussion with me about the most underrated and underappreciated films ever, a couple of films come to mind for me. One is Stardust, that Claire Danes is in. Modern day Princess Bride. I love Stardust. Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer, just great cast. Love that film. I think it's wonderful. Ricky Gervais is in it. Henry Cavill, Superman himself, is in it. The star of the film is Daredevil. Why am I forgetting the actor's name? But Daredevil's lead. I mean, it's a brilliant movie. But one of the other ones is Slither. I love this movie. And as a matter of fact, and for those of you who don't know, Slither is directed by James Gunn, who went on to do Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's funny because still today, when I talk about James Gunn, as much as I love Guardians of the Galaxy, and I love Guardians of the Galaxy, I still think of James Gunn, and when I'm talking about James Gunn, I usually go, Slither director James Gunn. I usually just start with Slither. Slither is, you're right, it's genuinely creepy, but at its heart, it's a comedy. It's absolutely hilarious. It's creepy. It plays great on a lot of the horror genre tropes. It's wonderful. Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks is so good in this movie. Michael Rooker is great in it. Long before he was Yondu, he was in Slither. A lot of other stuff too, but I love him in that movie. If you have not seen Slither, oh my God, Slither has to be one of our movie club movies. We have to do Slither as a movie club movie. It's so good. My God, guys, if you haven't watched Slither, sit down and watch Slither. Dakota, I'm really glad you've had a chance to watch it. Like I said, I'll be a lifelong fan of James Gunn, even if it wasn't for Guardians of the Galaxy, because that dude gave us Slither. It's just so good. Let's see. Patrick Conway writes, Christopher Robin is now my most anticipated movie. I'm going to jump right down to Murray because it looks like Murray's also talking about Christopher Robin. The new trailer for Christopher Robin looks really good. Oh my God. I woke up this morning. This is absolutely the truth. I woke up this morning with Anne nudging me. She goes, honey. I'm like, huh? She goes, do you want to watch the new Christopher Robin trailer with me? I'm like, oh, no, honey. Just let me sleep a few more minutes. She goes, okay. And so I sleep for a few more minutes, and I wake up to the sound of her sniffling. And I go, what is it, honey? And she rolls over in her pillow, looks at me. She's got tears in her eyes, and she's like, I'm crying. I'm like, I can see that. What is she? Goes, Winnie the Pooh's so cute. And she's just talking about the Christopher Robin trailer. And then sure enough, I watch it this morning too. You don't like, the word perfection is overused. But oh my God, it's perfection. That trailer is pure liquid joy. Like just pure liquid joy. Everything about that trailer is perfection. I adored it. And when he goes, I usually get to places by walking away from where I've been. Or one of my favorite line in the trailer, he goes, people say nothing is impossible, but I do nothing all day. It's brilliant. And Tigger was brilliant. It was perfect. And Piglet was perfect. And Eeyore was perfect. I cannot believe, like, look, one of the great things, there are many great things about movies, but one of the most powerful things about movies is to, no matter what mood you're in, no matter what you're going on, what's happening in your life at that moment, movies have the ability to temporarily and momentarily take you out of your life for a moment and just immerse you in something grand. you know? And trailers on a smaller level can do that as well. And I just found, no matter what else is going on in life, whatever, no matter how tired I am or whatever, I watch that trailer and it just kind of highlights the magic of the movies, man. It just washes this pure sense of happiness over you, you know? And you're right, that trailer, it's hard for Christopher Robin not to be one of my most anticipated movies of the year now. It wasn't before. I loved the first trailer and I loved the poster, but after seeing that second trailer, I don't know how it doesn't become one of my maybe top 2 or 3 most anticipated movies of the year now. It just looks absolutely brilliant. So yeah, man, I'm incredibly stoked for this movie. Okay, jumping down now to Rodney Hurd, who writes, "Hope you're having a good day, John. I am so far, thank you. I got my girlfriend Stormy hooked on your show and she loves it. Just wondering if you could give her a shout out. Thanks for all that you do." Well, Rodney, you just did. You just gave her a shout out and it's always great. I love it when I hear from wives or husbands or boyfriends or girlfriends who tell me that they watch the show with their significant other. That's always a kick to me because I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome that you guys do that together. But obviously, I like that you watch my show together. But the fact that you guys are participating in that stuff, whichever way you like to do it, I think that's great. So thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate that. Let's move on down now to Logan James Canaston, who writes, "Better Jennifer Lawrence performance, Winter Bone or Silver Lining?" Oh, to me, that's not even close. It's Winter's Bone. She was very good in Silver Linings, and Silver Linings is very good. But her performance in Winter's Bone is probably one of the top 2 best performances she's ever given. It's really the movie that put her on the map for a lot of people, but she's just stupid good in that. John Hawkes is also ridiculously good in that movie. I think John Hawkes might have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor in that movie, I think. I know Jennifer Lawrence was nominated for Best Actress for that movie. That was her first Academy Award nomination. The movie itself is brilliant, but to me, no question. She was very good in Silver Linings, but to me, the better performance out of the 2 was Winter's Bone. I really love her in that. Let's see here. ZOMG Ruler writes, "Why keep the Hulk rights if they can't make a movie? Why not? Why would you give them away? Why would you give them away? You'd be an idiot." So what ZOMG Rule's talking about is Universal Studios. They have the distribution rights. As a film distributor, they have the distribution rights to any Incredible Hulk film that Marvel makes. Universal doesn't have the production rights. Like, Universal can't make a Hulk movie. But if Marvel makes one, Universal gets to be the distributor because they have the distribution rights. So this is why Marvel doesn't make a standalone Hulk film, because Marvel doesn't want somebody else to distribute their movies. They want to distribute their own movies. Disney wants to distribute all the Marvel MCU movies. They don't want to let anybody else do it. So ZOMG Rue is saying, hey, well, why keep those rights if you're Universal if you can't make the movie? Well, because it's potentially very valuable. Like, it would be really idiotic. Like, if I had if for whatever reason, I had, I don't know, the Captain America rights, distribution rights. Let's say I had the Captain America distribution rights. For whatever reason, let's say me and Kevin Feige met one night. He got drunk. We decided to play poker. I'm not bad at poker. I win and he decides to put up the Captain America distribution rights and I win the rights. Okay, so I've got them. All right. Marvel may say, well, look, we're not going to make any more Captain Marvel or Captain America movies then, as long as you have the distribution rights. I'll go, that's fine. Don't mind me. I'm just going to take these rights. I'm going to put them on the shelf back here, and they're just going to sit there. And eventually, you're either going to make me an unreasonable offer for a huge, ungodly amount of money to get them back from me, or you're going to go ahead and make a Captain America movie and I get to distribute it, or nothing and it just continues to sit there. But if I give it away, I get nothing. So maybe if I let it just sit there on the shelf, maybe I get nothing, but maybe I get ridiculous amounts of money. If I just give them away, I get nothing. So yeah, I would do exactly what Universal's doing, man. I would take those Captain America rights, I'd put them right up there beside my Batman figure, and I'd have them just sitting there nice and cozy beside Batman, and maybe they sit there forever, but maybe Marvel eventually goes, fine, we'll make a movie. I mean, it's all about potential and possibility. Don't give away potential. Don't hand away potential. Universal has potential. They have the distribution rights to a Hulk movie. Maybe Marvel will never do it, but maybe they just might break down and they will. Whatever the case is, and whatever arrangements or whatever you're planning in the future, you might as well hold on to them because nothing bad can happen out of keeping them. Nothing bad, because you know what would kill you? Is you fine, you gave them back to Marvel. Marvel instantly makes a new Hulk movie and it makes $1 billion. Now you feel pretty stupid if you're Universal. I would sit on those rights permanently. If I were Universal, I would just sit on those rights permanently. And if you were smart, you would too. So that's what Universal's doing. Jerome Lim writes, this day in I see where this is going. This day in 1977, the original Star Wars debuted in 32 theaters. May the Force be with you. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, I remember this is what made it so special. Because the theater premiered in, where it did its real world premiere, was at the Man's Chinese, which was the coolest thing about the very first Star Wars movie I got to go to. Well, the very first Star Wars movie premiere I got to go to was actually the Clone Wars animated film. Technically speaking, that was the first Star Wars world premiere I got to go to. I do not count that. I don't count that. To me, the real first Star Wars premiere I ever got to go to was The Force Awakens. And what made it extra magic was that it was in the Chinese theater on Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood, California, the exact same spot where the original Star Wars did its premiere so many years ago. And there was something magic, even before the movie started, just sitting in that theater, looking around and just feeling the nostalgia of it. And before the movie started, I remember they played this like a little piece on the big screen showing footage of the original film doing its world premiere at the Chinese theater. It was an absolutely magical moment. Yeah, I absolutely treasured that, and it was great. So there you go. Thanks for bringing that up, Jerome. I appreciate it. James Hoffman writes, have you seen the 1993 movie Searching for Bobby Fischer? I certainly have. It's a really touching father and son movie starring Ben Kingsley, one of my favorite movies. Well, Ben Kingsley was great in it. Lawrence Fishburne was in it. William H. Macy was in it. It had a really terrific cast. Like, it wasn't just Ben Kingsley. It was an all-around really impressive cast. Like, when you go back now, that movie's now, 25 years old? Good grief. When you go back now and look at it and you realize just how star-studded of a cast was really in that film. And the kid was great. And yes, just full of yes, James, that movie was really wonderful. Rodney Hurd writes, the only thing that could top doing what is best in life is praying to your God before battle and ending it with, and if you do not listen, then to hell with you. Of course, that's another reference to Conan. The other day, I don't know if it was Rodney or somebody else, somebody put in a comment saying, hey, John, what is best in life? So I don't know if they were trying to trick me or something. I said, well, that's simple. To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. It's a classic Conan movie. There's another great line in Conan that Rodney just quoted, where near the end he's praying to Crom. He's heading into his big final battle. He's praying for victory, right? And then he basically says, but if you do not do this, whatever, then to hell with you. And he's saying it to his god Crom. It's a magnificent moment in film. It just kind of highlights the type of dude Conan was. Which, by the way, don't think I'm not keenly aware that there are still a lot of you guys that have never actually sat down and watched the original Conan the Barbarian. You absolutely must watch Conan the Barbarian. If for anything else, then Pazo Baladurs's a magnificent score. Like, the score of the movie is incredible. And James Earl Jones, guys, Mufasa, Lord Vader, James Earl Jones is the big bad guy in the film. So, yeah, you got to watch the original Conan, man. All right, we move on here. Ben Davis writes, hey, John, random question. What are your thoughts on the 2006 Stanley Cup winners, the Carolina Hurricanes? I've always remembered that season as a season me and my dad went to a bunch of games. I remember being surprised. I mean, it was like, I remember at the time it was like the newest team that had won a Stanley Cup in a long time. And it was still really weird for me back then because I don't think anybody took the Carolina Hurricanes seriously. Even though they should have. I just remember, I don't think a lot of people took them seriously. No matter how good their regular season was and how they had flashes of brilliance and all that kind of stuff, I don't remember anybody picking them to win the Cup that year. And they won the Stanley Cup. Now, for whatever reason, I thought it was like 2007, 2008 that happened. Maybe it was 2006. Maybe you're right. But yeah, I just remember being really surprised because a lot of people were really surprised. Kind of like the Las Vegas Golden Knights, my friends. All right, we can move on next to... Where are we? We're at Dakota Barber. And Dakota Barber writes, saw Solo last night and I liked it a lot. I was impressed with Alden, and without spoilers till the weekend, I love the surprise. Effie's nest was cool. Oh, yeah, I really like the character. That character, by the way, that everybody's talking about here is the character you see in the trailer with the mask. So that's that character. Very cool character. There are a couple of very nice surprises in the film. And I don't want to give anything away, but we'll talk about... I've got a really good story to tell, by the way, about one of the surprises in the film. I obviously can't talk about it right now because that would be a spoiler, but we will talk about it on Sunday during the Solo spoiler discussion. That's going to be at 2 p.m. Make sure you join me at that time. All right. And yeah, I mean, I thought Alden was great. I really did. And I'm even hearing from a lot of people who, you know, Solo didn't work for them. And I'm finding the vast majority of people like the film, but I'm even hearing from people who, I could have done without that movie, saying, but that Alden kid did a pretty good job. Yeah, he did. I gotta say he did. And that's the one thing I always knew would be good about the film. I didn't know about if anything else would work, but the one thing I always felt pretty dang confident about was that Alden Ehrenreich was gonna play the hell out of that role. I always felt really confident about that. And sure enough, he did. He did a really, really good job. Rose Ryan sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Rose. Appreciate that. Toothless writes, when do you think DC Titans trailer is coming? I don't know. Honestly, I have no interest in it. I have no interest in that show whatsoever. And don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean I'm not open to having my mind changed. Maybe the trailer drops and it looks amazing. Maybe, but I'm not. It's a show about sidekicks. I know a bunch of you screaming at, John, don't disrespect the Titans like that. I got no interest in them. I just don't. The one thing that they're going to be doing on the DC streaming service that really does have my attention is the Swamp Thing that they announced that they were doing. That I find intriguing. I find that really intriguing. The Titans one, not so much. Honestly, not so much. Any more than I would about seeing a movie about Kid Flash or a movie about, I don't know, Kid Thor and Wonder Girl, and I don't know. It just doesn't interest me. But again, who knows? Maybe the trailer comes out, blows her socks off, and I watch a show and I really get into it. Look, I thought Black Lightning was a bad idea for a show. I thought The Flash was a bad idea for the show, and I ended up really liking both of those shows. Maybe the same thing will happen with the DC's Titans. But since I really don't care about it, I'm not following it at all or its progress. So I have no guess as to when a trailer for that might come. I really don't at this point. Orange Hand writes, thoughts on the previous Oceans movies? Oh, they were good. I actually, okay, but you got to keep in mind too that I am a sucker for heist movies. And that's what the Oceans films are. They are, by DNA, they are heist movies. So I'm always appreciating Oceans films. And that's why I am giving this new one the benefit of the doubt. I don't think the trailers have been great for Oceans 8, but they're not bad. And they showcase that this is, from start to finish, a heist movie. So you got me interested. Anything that's a good heist movie, you're going to have my interest. And that's pretty much how I sum up my feelings about the original Oceans movies. Canada Rocks, it certainly does, writes, growing up in Hamilton, oh, very cool. I gained, for those of you who don't know, that's where I grew up, was Hamilton, Ontario. Growing up in Hamilton, I gained an appreciation for old movies, watching Ellie Yost's Magic Shadows on TV Ontario. Did you ever watch that as a kid? You know what? I don't think I did. I remember growing up watching lots of stuff on TV Ontario. I watched lots of stuff on TV Ontario. Only those growing up in Canada will have any idea what I'm talking about when I mention the Polka Dot Door or the Pokeroo or Smith and Smith. But I got to be honest with you, I don't recall the name of that. That might have been after my time or before my time. I'm not really sure, but I don't recognize that. Clearly, I recognize TVO, but I don't recognize Magic Shadows. Maybe if I saw a picture, I'll probably look up a picture of it or something later, but right off the top of my head, I don't remember that. But I'm glad to get a message from a fellow Hamiltonian. It's still my favorite city in the world, by the way, is Hamilton. It's still my home. Chris Warden writes, when you're going to see the next CGI blockbuster at the multiplex, what format do you prefer? IMAX? No. AMC Prime? Yes. I find IMAX has the better picture, where Prime usually has a superior sound system. I find Prime, especially when it's a Dolby at AMC Prime, I find it has the superior picture. Now, it's all a matter of preference, but that dual laser projection system that Dolby has put into those AMC Primes, amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, yeah, for me, I will take the AMC Prime Dolby experience over IMAX every time. I can't think of a single movie I would rather go and watch in IMAX. Even films that were shot in IMAX, I would much rather see in an AMC Prime. And I don't even work for AMC anymore. But yeah, for me, it's that every time. Now, your mileage may vary. You may prefer the IMAX format. That's great. And I'm sure a lot of people are like that as well. For me, though, every time, it'll be the Dolby at AMC Prime experience for me. Let's see. Raymond Vitara writes, new Christopher Robin trailer, shed a tear too many. And it's wonderful. And if you just joining me, I was just telling the story a little bit earlier in this program that, you know, I woke up turning over and seeing my wife sniffling and a little tear in her eye. What is it, honey? She was that Christopher Robin trailer made me cry. And I'm like, yeah, it's so beautiful. It's so great. Like, you really can't overstate just how, like, truly wonderful that trailer is. It's magnificent. Let's see here. Which cave scene did you like better, Rey's or Luke's? Me, I like Rey's. You know what? Honestly, as somebody who really likes Last Jedi, I did not like that scene. Didn't like that scene, really. It felt to me like it was just kind of trippy for the sake of being trippy, whereas Luke's cave scene was very tangible. You know what I mean? And it didn't feel trippy. It felt surreal, but not trippy. And yeah, even as somebody who likes The Last Jedi, I did not like that scene. I wasn't big on that scene. That to me, and all the times that I go to watch the movie, between Canto Bight or Rey's cave scene, that's usually when I would take my bathroom break, to be honest with you. Now, I'm not at all pooping on you for if you like that scene. I'm sure there are many people who like that scene. That's great. But if you're asking me which of the two scenes, like which of the two cave scenes did I prefer, for me, the cave scene of choice is Luke's cave scene. That's mine. All right. Third Man 3 writes, what do you make of these solo boycotters who say Ford was paid for his interview and that critics are paid, etc.? How silly, but just imagine the logistics if that were true. You know what's really funny? Here's the funny thing. When that thing came out, that Harrison Ford loved this movie. Like, what he told Ron Howard wasn't just that it was good. Ron Howard said he'd never seen Harrison Ford rave. He used the word rave about a movie as much. And Ford went in the first day, went to go see it twice. And he said Alden Ehrenreich nails it. The kid really made it his own, blah, 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 blah. And now I was quick to tell everybody, hey, just because Harrison Ford likes it doesn't mean you're going to like it. He's one guy with one opinion. That doesn't mean anything. It's just a nice endorsement from the guy who played the role. Somebody put a comment in that video that I thought was ridiculous, like just silly and ridiculous. But it turns out whoever it was that wrote that comment was a prophet. Because what that comment said in that video was, countdown, I'm paraphrasing, countdown to when a bunch of internet trolls start saying that Harrison Ford is a shill. And I thought that was a silly comment. Well, no one's going to call Harrison Ford a shill. No one's going to call Harrison Ford that. Harrison Ford is notorious for being just blunt about his opinion every time. Doesn't matter. He's just notorious for that. Nobody is going to be so idiotic, so outrageously beyond measure stupid, like to the point that you would wonder, how do these people even tie their own shoes? Nobody's going to be so dumb as to suggest Harrison Ford is a shill and he took a paycheck just to say something good. I was wrong. And there are people out there who are apparently that idiotic that they would rather. There are people out there so pathetic and desperate that they would rather make up a fairy tale that Harrison Ford took money under the table from Disney just to say he liked the movie than just accept, hey, guess what? There are people who like the movie. They're so desperate and insecure and fragile and idiotic that they would rather grasp onto the notion, or they would rather spread some kind of false narrative that Harrison Ford's on the take. He'll say anything you want him to say for a paycheck. Then accept that there are just going to be a bunch of people, including Harrison Ford, that like the movie. And it's, honestly, we live in idiocracy. Like, these people are the living embodiment of idiocracy. They would rather embrace the nonsensical than just accept the reality. There are people who like this movie. Doesn't mean you have to like the movie. And if you didn't like it, there's nothing wrong with that. Perfectly fine if you don't like the movie. I don't think Solo's for everybody. And I'm sure I've got a friend of mine who is a Last Jedi defender, and he didn't like Solo. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. You're allowed to be secure enough in your own opinion that you don't have to grasp at fairy tales and start making up stories. But then again, we shouldn't be surprised. These are the same losers who, instead of just accepting certain people like what they don't like, they make up stories that all critics are paid. All critics do this and they're on the take. And blah, blah. Really? You're so stupid and so insecure that you would rather make up some fairy tale like that than just accept there are people out there who like something that you don't? It's nonsensical. It's really ridiculous. And it's really too bad, too, because it gives other people who just honestly don't like Solo, or people who just honestly just don't like The Last Jedi, it gives those people a bad name. And they're the majority of people. It's most people who don't like The Last Jedi and who eventually won't like Solo. The vast majority of them are just normal, clear-thinking people who went to go see a movie and it didn't work for them. That's the vast majority. And it's really unfortunate that you get these tinfoil hat-wearing schmucks who give them a bad name by coming up with all these fairy tales and conspiracy theories and blah, 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 like all this nonsense. But these people, these pathetic losers are real. They exist. But we must not lose sight of the fact that they are the minority. They do not represent the majority of fans who didn't like those movies, because the majority of fans who don't like those movies, they just don't like them because they didn't like them. Just like there are movies I watch that I don't like, just like there are movies you watch that you don't like, there are people who watch these movies and they don't like it, and they represent the majority of the people, and they shouldn't get lumped in with these tinfoil hat-wearing, mama's basement living losers. But hey, it is what it is. Adrian Avalar writes, what could the consequences be for a low to meh box office for Solo? Even though it'll be a small sacrifice, I think the 18-month gap will help Episode 9. What could the consequences? There are no consequences. There's only consequences to whether or not Solo is well received or poorly received. There's no consequences for its box office result. Like, the box office, it could make $40 million. But if the audience that sees it loves it, that's the only thing that's going to cause repercussions. Solo could make $200 million opening weekend. But if the audience that goes sees it all hate it, It doesn't matter that it made 200 million. There's going to be negative consequences because the audience that did see it didn't like it. So it really doesn't matter if it makes $40 million or makes $200 million when you're talking about after effects, when you're talking about the shock waves that come afterwards. And like I said, I think anything over $100 million, and I've been saying this from the beginning, anything over $100 million, you got to count as a win. I think that's a win. The consequences will come on if the majority of the audience like the film or the majority of the audience doesn't like the film. Every real stat we're seeing is saying that most audience members are liking the film. Some people aren't. That's totally fine, but clearly the majority of people are liking the movie. And that's really what's going to be, the repercussions. It's not going to be the amount of money it makes. It's going to be, no matter how good or how bad, it's going to be how do people think about the movie? How did they like it? Did they not like it? And that ultimately is going to determine what kind of ramifications there are. And I saw with a couple of audiences that seemed to like it, but I'm sure there are audiences out there that watch it that didn't like it. We're just going to have to wait and see in a few weeks to get a real gauge about what the audience feels about the movie. And that's going to determine what kind of repercussions there are or not. Hector Jetta writes, just came out of Solo, enjoyed it more the second time. You know what's funny? I've seen it 3 times now. Last night was my 3rd time. I really quite enjoyed it the first time. I liked it a little bit less the second time I saw it, but I liked it a bunch more the 3rd time I saw it. I can't explain why. I have no explanation for that. But like the second time I saw it, I liked it just a little bit less, but the 3rd time I saw it, I liked it a bunch more. So I'm not sure how where I'm falling in that, but I'm glad you saw it, Hector, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Dark Horizons 211 writes, have you seen the Tremors trailer with Kevin Bacon? It looked really good and kind of sucks that Sci-Fi didn't pick it up. Hopefully another network will. I didn't watch it, to be honest with you. I didn't watch it because I heard it got canceled anyway. But look, you can make any trailer can be made to look good. You can make any trailer look good. My God, some of the best trailers ever are the trailers for the Transformers movies. And look how those turn out. You can make any trailer look good. So I wouldn't get too excited about a trailer looking good. I love the original Tremors, though. That original Tremors I forget the actor's name who plays Remo Williams. In Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. But I love that movie, and I love that he was in Tremors. And then you had the dad from Family Ties was in there. I think Reba McEntire was in the original Tremors too. I love the first Tremors movie. Everything after that I thought was terrible, but that first Tremors movie was good. So I was curious about it when I heard that they might be doing a TV series, but not all that surprised when I heard that they decided to throw the axe on it. Let's see. D. Joseph writes, hey, your opinion/perception of Manchester City. I don't follow soccer, so I really have no opinion whatsoever. I just know that they're one of the iconic teams in soccer and in professional sports is Man U. I mean, that's... Oh, wait a second, Manchester City. Those are 2 different teams, right? Manchester United, Manchester City? Maybe I don't know as little about soccer as I think, but those are 2 separate... I honestly, I don't. I don't follow soccer at all, so I can't give any opinion on that at all. Zach Kaplan writes, last night I met you after Solo... and I had a chance to meet a couple people. Thank you so much to everybody who came up and said hi after last night. Last night I had a chance to meet you after Solo. You're incredibly humble. Thanks for doing what you do. Would you consider doing fan meetup events in the future? I'm considering it. I just don't know how many followers I have. I don't know if I did a fan event, if anybody would show up. I mean, that's just the big thing. But I'm going to make an announcement right now. I have decided to do my annual panel at Comic-Con again this year. I wasn't totally sure. I thought about it, and then I, submitted to Comic-Con. They got back. They said they wanted me to do the panel. So I talked to Ann again last night and went, okay, we're going to do it. So I am going to do my panel again this year at Comic-Con. I'm not going to give any of the details right now because I don't think Comic-Con wants us to reveal the details yet. I'm not sure, so I'll sit in that for a bit. But if you're going to be in San Diego, and you're going to come around to Comic-Con, make sure you come to my panel this year. I'll give out details more in the coming days and everything. But maybe we'll set up something in LA sometime. Maybe we'll set up something in LA to do. Ian Wendu writes, thoughts on The Flash? Have you seen the finale? I did watch the finale. I watched the finale today. As I was sitting down eating lunch, I put on the finale, watched the finale today. Look, let me just say this. I'm just glad this season's over. and that they can start off with a new season and start off with a new story. This season, I think by far has been the weakest season for The Flash. And I love this show. But yeah, this season to me, just not so good. Just not so good. The whole DeVoe thing, it's too bad too, because the actor playing him was really good in the role, but I just didn't like the way the character was written. I didn't like the plot. I didn't like, especially the finale. The finale was like, oh, so something that hasn't been a part of the story the whole time is now suddenly the most important thing. It's crazy. I just didn't like it. Didn't like it. So thoughts on The Flash? I love the show, but this season I thought was its poorest yet. I really do. I think that this was the poorest season yet, and I'm really excited that now they get to start fresh with the new season. I like the way it ended with the girls showing up. I won't give away any spoilers, but I really liked it how it ended with the girls showing up. That was really cool. Opens up some really cool possibilities for next season, so we'll hold out hope for that. Okay, just got a couple of minutes left here, guys. Let's see here. You815 writes, does True Detective Season 3 interest you at all? A little bit. I honestly didn't think True Detective Season 2 was as bad as some people think. It didn't live up to the first one. You know, the funny thing is, I didn't like True Detective Season 1 for the first couple of episodes either. It took a few episodes for me to get on board with it. And then by the time you got to the finale of it, I was really on board with it. Season 2, some incredible performances. Rachel McAdams, Taylor Kitsch, Colin Farrell, Dodgeball, Vince, why am I forgetting Vince's last name? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. They all gave amazing performances. Just amazing performances. It didn't flow nearly as well as the first season. But no, yeah, I'll say I'm modestly interested and intrigued about season 2, so we'll see where that goes. All right, final question of the day, and then we'll wrap things up here. Leander writes, did the end of Infinity War, no spoilers, hurt the box office some? Does it affect rewatchability? It was hard for me to sit through the first time I saw it. Well, I don't think it hurts rewatchability, to be honest. Without any spoilers, it's a powerful ending. And it's not the traditional powerful ending that we're looking for in comic book superhero movies, but it's a powerful ending. And we love those experiences. Here's the thing. I always say this. Movies are experiential events. We go to the movies for an experience. Whether the experience, much like you ride a roller coaster for the experience, the fear, the thrill. We go into movies to have an experience, whether it's an experience of being thoughtful, an experience of fear, an experience of laughter, an experience of excitement, an experience of tension, whatever. We go to movies. Movies are experiential things. And I think the ending of Infinity War is a very experiential moment. Like, you experience that moment. And I don't think that hurts the box office. I think, if anything, people probably went back to revisit and to have that ending again. And look, this movie's probably going to join the $2 billion club. So it's done. You can't join the $2 billion club without massive rewatchability. You can't get anywhere close to the $2 billion club without there being a lot of rewatchability. Clearly, a lot of people have gone back to watch this movie multiple times. So no, I don't think that hurt it at all, to be honest with you. Let's see, ZOMG, last one, just threw in the last one. Martha's scene made me happy because it's from the comics. I'm not sure if you're talking about the original Martha scene or the Deadpool 2 Martha scene, but I like both Martha scenes. And I put up an entire video on about why I defend the Martha scene in Batman vs. Superman. If you haven't seen that video, go look it up. Defending the Martha scene. Just search on YouTube, Defending Martha Scene, John Campea. If you search that, I'm sure my video will be the first one to come up. And I explain why I defend, and I actually think the Martha scene is a good scene. And what it means. And why it's misinterpreted. But yeah, I think the Martha scene works, but that's just me. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment. Actually, for this week's series of open mics. Thank you so much for joining me here. Now, guys, don't forget a couple things about this weekend. Number one, we no longer do open mics on Saturdays or Sundays. I'm taking Saturday and Sunday mornings off from doing live shows. So that's great. But also, don't forget on Sunday, our Solo open spoiler discussion. So you've had last night, today, and tomorrow to go see Solo, and then 2 p.m. on Sunday, we're going to do our open spoiler discussion about Solo. All the things we love about it, the things we didn't like about it, the questions we have coming out, speculation about where they go from here, all that kind of stuff. We're doing that Sunday at 2 p.m. Make sure you come back and join me then. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this week's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.